Hello and thanks for joining us. This is the Big Centre Show, which takes a look at the big news stories in our region over the past week, and it also gives us a chance to check out some of the headlines in the local papers. Joining me this week to help navigate the hot topics, I'm delighted to welcome back the soon-to-be president of the Black Country Chamber, any week now, Kevin Rogers from Paycare, and Wolverhampton-based financial advisor Frank Cochrane. Thank you for joining us, gents. Lots to talk about again this week. Now, the one thing I know I'm not going to talk to you about, Kevin, is BCC stances on the European Union with your chamber hat on.
I've been briefed fully that we are absolutely taking a neutral stance over it. And I think that's fair enough because most of our members have got one side are in and one side are out, and we have to represent the views of both of those members, so taking a stance on either way would be very unfair, I think. Yeah. So I hope that's a neutral comment.
Completely. I mean, the one interesting thing I think is more interesting, to be honest, than an organisation's stance is just how much do you think all of the rhetoric and the increasingly personal attacks that have started to come out are actually going to influence businesses? Do you think businesses have already made their mind up, they've looked into the situation and they know which way they're going to vote on June the 23rd?
I think there's still a lot of businesses that are looking for unbiased information so they can make a real good decision based on the needs of their businesses. To get that unbiased information is really difficult. You've got so much information coming out from the in campaign, so much coming out from the out campaign. And I think what businesses are looking for is some just clear data that they can make a really informed decision how it affects their own individual circumstances. I think for individuals out there, it's a real turn-off. Because what they're seeing is just politicians doing what they expect politicians to do and argue amongst themselves.
Well, they're all out to point score at the moment, aren't they? Yeah. And I think once they've got that out of the way and people can actually get down to the hard facts of, okay, what's it actually going to mean to the country? What's it going to mean to the cost of living going forwards in the future? How are we going to trade with other countries in the world? The one thing that couldn't continue was the status quo. I mean, the worst deal would be if Cameron hadn't done anything. Either way, we're going to come out of it either with the UK out and then having to see where the uncharted waters are, or by staying in, at least we've got a better deal out of it. It may not be brilliant, but at least it's a bargaining position.
You can see how desperate both sides of the campaign are at the moment. I mean, we had a certain national newspaper that's got itself into potentially hot water by suggesting that the Queen's made her mind up. But then, of course, when Boris Johnson, there was a lot of fuss around which way would Boris go and would that swing people's votes. But these are just politicians with one vote, aren't they? And they've got, all of them have an agenda of some sort.
I think one of the real lost opportunities is not giving the 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds the vote. I think that worked really well in engaging people within the Scottish referendum. And you think about it, it's the 16, 17-year-olds that this is really, really going to impact upon. This is life-changing decisions that we're about to be making in a few months' time, and not to involve the people that in 30, 40 years' time this is really going to impact upon. I think that's a real lost opportunity.
Anyway, not to worry, there's only 3 months of this tit for tat still to go. So.
Like I said, the only good thing that's come out of this is I think that you've seen that the current government, obviously, Cameron has allowed all of his ministers to have a free rein to say what they actually believe. And if they can represent what their own constituents want, then perhaps democracy is going to work.
But again, that's difficult, isn't it?
It is.
You've got people in
difficult.
So many sides, and when people tend to be not just one slightly over the fence, they're either over here or they're over here, aren't they? So.
Yeah, but everybody seems to be almost oscillating around the middle at the moment. People still aren't quite sure because we don't know the hard facts of what it's going to mean. All you're doing is listening to one side bickering against the other. I think if we have something along the lines of the American presidential election where you've got the groups actually debating it, and we'll undoubtedly get that, that's got to come. It might start to polarise people's opinions and give them a better indication of what they actually want out of it themselves.
We are running a couple of events leading up to the referendum at the Chamber to try and inform businesses, both in fors and the against, and some kind of neutral comment as well, so they can be better informed.
And I bet you'll get a good take-up to those, I would have thought.
I would hope so. I would hope so.
Shall we move on to something a bit lighter?
Please do.
Now, I know that we've got two animal lovers on the sofa here. You're a dog man and you're a cat man, aren't you? Am I right? I've got the right way round? So.
Yeah, definitely got that right, yeah.
But of course, this week, Crufts has been in town, the world's largest dog show, and Birmingham's gone Crufts crazy. I think 22,000 dogs we've had in the area this week. Roshni Patel went along to check out the runners and riders.
Lights, camera, action. Not your typical words for man's best friend. But on this occasion, it couldn't be more perfect. Yes, that's right. I'm here at Crufts 2016, where each year thousands of dog lovers flock to the NEC to catch a glimpse of one of the world's largest dog events. It just keeps on getting bigger and better, celebrating every aspect of the role that our furry friends play in our lives.
Well, every year we come back, it's just a big education. There's different breeds here, and you get to speak to the owners, also the breeders, and find a bit more history about the dogs. You can get up close to the dogs that you see walking the street. Generally, some owners don't let you approach here. They're quite approachable, they'll answer any questions you have, and it is generally a good education.
I come to Crufts to watch Heelwork to music and flyball agility. I've also got some friends competing in Heelwork to music, so I'd like to come and support there, and also watch Mary Ray and spend lots of money.
This is the first time I've been, and I really love dogs, and I just thought I have 2 crossbreeds, and I just like to see the whole, it's just famous, isn't it? It's like the world #1.
But let's not forget that all-important historical dog show, where queues of owners lead the way in the hope of reaching doggy stardom.
Well, the show itself goes back for 125 years now, and Charles Cruft, when he started it, decided that he really wanted to set up the biggest and the best dog show in the world. I think he'd be quite proud of his name being attached to this now. But so historically very significant, because it was really the forerunner for so many big international dog shows. But as an event, it is quite different to all other shows.
So with thousands of dogs in all different shapes and sizes dashing through the doors, you'd be barking mad to ever think that Crufts was like any other walk in the park. This is Roshni Patel for the Midlands at the NEC.
Now then, I've got one man here who is actually going to Crufts tomorrow and showing there, and one man who's allergic to dogs.
I would last about 5 minutes in there, coming out streaming and my eyes streaming and wheezing. So I think I'll just give it a miss, I think.
Well, actually, to put you right, we're not actually showing, we're going there shopping.
Oh, are you?
Well, we were shown before, and to be absolutely honest with you, it is just a glorified cattle market for me. I mean, we've got a working dog strain, which are the Alaskan Malamutes. I'd much rather be up in the hills in Aviemore running the dogs, doing what nature intended them to do, than taking them, sticking them in a crate for 8 hours a day just to bring them out for 5 minutes. Somebody goes, yes, we like it, no, we don't, there's your rosette, and off you go. I can understand why people do. We've seen it, we've been there, but to be quite honest with you, the level of corruption in the judging and everything that goes with it, it just sickened me to death.
I mean, there's been everything. There's been sort of drugging cases,
One of our dogs was drugged at the Kennel Club, the Birmingham LKA 2-3 years ago. One of our dogs was given sleeping tablets.
Really? So, I mean, it just shows just how, how
it's
competitive,
vicious.
how desperate.
It's vicious.
And of course, certainly over the last few years, it's been fairly typical for there to be demonstrations outside from people that claim that some of the breeds are being overbred and it causes various issues.
Well, there's massive health problems in a lot of the breeds. And the problem that you've got is that people are now breeding for profit rather than for the good of the actual, the particular breed group that you're in. And it's all because of money. I mean, there's big money in pedigree puppies. And the people are really, they're putting the health issues to one side and not doing what they should, which is another reason that we've moved aside from the show side, more onto the working side, because the dogs are actually doing what they're bred for. And a well-constructed dog can't run 23, 24 miles if it's not built properly.
But of course, talking the fact that it's big money, an event like Crufts is big money to the local economy, isn't it? I mean, how many visitors it brings in? It's one of the biggest events that Birmingham has in a year, isn't it now?
Our guys from Paycare were actually at an exhibition at the NEC yesterday, and they said, just to give you some kind of idea of the size of there, 2 whole car parks at the NEC are just being dedicated to the Crufts Dog Show.
Well, I think it takes over about 5 of the halls in total. But I say we're going tomorrow, just because we love dogs, and Sarah's going along to see some friends of ours. We're going along. She's going to shop the place clean. I know that the credit cards are going to get well damaged.
But at least you're going in with your eyes open, though, Frank.
Well, I'm
You know
doing
what's
something for the economy, aren't I? So you've got me doing the good bit there. Yeah.
Well, I certainly wouldn't go in there with my eyes open for very long if I went.
Or they'd stay open,
So
you wouldn't
after
be able to
being
shut them.
nearly killed by a Shih Tzu, I'm going to stone.
That sounds nasty.
Well, it
That
was
sounds
very nasty.
So we'll leave it at that. I can't top that. Now, one of the other big talking points this week, it's marked the first day of a planned 3 days of junior doctors' strike again. And it's all a result of this bitter row which is still going on with the government over new contracts. Well, we spoke to a gathering outside Sandwell General Hospital to find out their views.
A frustrated profession. Armed with their sides of strong discontent, their voices may be dwindling, but their spirit is far from broken.
I think it just demonstrates that across the country, across England, we just feel that this contract is so devastating to the future of the NHS that we're going to brave whatever it takes. We don't care what the weather's like. We're just going to come out here and fight for what we believe in, the NHS.
All we want is a fair contract that's fair for us, fair to recognise the hours we work, and fair for our patients so they don't get doctors that have been stretched and are tired and have overworked.
I mean, I'm on a day off today, but I'd much rather be in work than standing out here trying to sort of tell people that this isn't a sensible way for the government to be behaving. But I think we've got to keep registering a sort of objection to how the whole situation is being mishandled.
These junior doctors have been standing here since 8 in the morning. It's going to last for 48 hours, making it the longest strike so far. It's a debate which has torn the country, but for these people standing behind me and the opposition, the finger can only be pointed in one direction.
I think it's disappointing for everyone that the junior doctors and the government haven't been able to reach an agreement about the new contract. I think Jeremy Hunt, the House Secretary, was wrong to take the decision to impose a new contract, because I do think this risks a prolonged period of industrial action. I think it will destroy morale in the workforce, which is already at rock bottom, and I think it risks the mass exodus of junior doctors to countries such as Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and none of this can be good for patients. I think Jeremy Hunt has been completely wrong to pick a fight with the very people that the NHS depends upon.
More than 5,000 treatments have had to be postponed, and if an agreement isn't reached, this could be just a taste of what's to come.
I think what's important is that this contract is only going to make things worse for the NHS. It's going to stretch our services. There's going to be further cancellations, and it's going to start making things unsafe on the wards. It's not just going to be about cancellations of clinics. It's going to be that it's going to be unsafe on the wards for patients because this contract is going to stretch us too thin. So I think really we're doing it for the future of the NHS, and the inconvenience, the short term, is I think outweighed by the benefits that trying to stop this contract is going to have.
As the rain pours down, they stand strong, resolute and united, with no sign of these young professionals giving up.
As Roshni says there, a question of who will back down first, but do either side show any sign of backing down at all?
I don't think they do. I think both sides are very entrenched in the views. And if anything, I think the junior doctors now are hardening the stance. I mean, they're up in the number of days that they're on strike. So I don't see really any kind of compromise on either side at the moment.
I don't really get this because the whole crux of the argument was the fact that the government were trying to introduce a way where there would be better coverage over the weekend period. Now, by extending the hours and giving them more pay, surely they are being rewarded for doing these extra hours already. So, perhaps I'm just being naive, but nobody's come forward and given me what I consider to be a good enough argument to say that, the junior doctors are justified in what they're saying. Because they're saying it's going to be more dangerous for the people on the wards because they're going to be tired. Well, if that's the case, then, what's more dangerous? People not being on the ward at all, or somebody being on there that's had a long shift? Or is it going to be a case of that they're going to have to use the the numbers of doctors better and actually use a bit more time management to make sure that the rotas are being properly used, so that these young doctors aren't going to be tired and you're going to have fresh doctors on when you need them.
Absolutely, I think, and every time...
But that doesn't come down to money, and they're making it a money issue, so I think that's wrong.
There is a bigger picture there about a 7-day health service and the cost involved in putting that 7-day health service together, because not only do you have the junior doctors to pay, but also the back office.
The trouble is people can't dictate they're going to be ill between Monday and Friday, can they? No. So you need that service.
I've got to break you up. We've got to take a break. We're back in a few minutes. Welcome back. Now, it's budget week next week. Are we excited, gents? Are we excited? Trepidated?
Well, it's the big part of our year, isn't it, from the financial services point of view? There's been so many leaks that's come out about what the Chancellor may or may not do. We're still sitting here saying, well, you know, it could be one of a dozen things, couldn't it? It could be pensions that he's going to hit. It could be anything, you name it, it's all on the agenda.
If we believe some of the headlines this week, George Osborne has been forced to backtrack to a certain degree on some of the pension reforms that he was looking at, hasn't he? So
he has, indeed. The one thing that I'm worried about is we've got a real push now to try and make sure that because people are living longer, they're drawing on the pensions for a longer period of time, we're trying to build as big a pot as we can. But in the last few budgets, he's reduced the annual allowance that you can pay into your pension. He's reduced the lifetime allowance of money that you can hold in your pension. He's actually detracting from the one thing that I think he should be actually helping people to do, which is to put more money into their pension scheme so that they've got a bigger pot to work with. And now we hear that he might be attacking the tax-free cash element that you can take from your pension, or he may reduce the tax relief that people get on their pensions. All of these are negative. I mean, it's like when they took away the advanced corporation tax relief on pensions. That scored out millions and millions of pounds from people's pensions overnight.
And what do we think maybe fuel duty might be on the agenda?
I think it's already leaked that the fuel duty will be hit. And he's taken advantage of the low price of fuel that we see at the moment. So I think that's been leaked.
But have you noticed as well that fuel all of a sudden, because the oil price has gone up over $40 a barrel, there's been immediate hits at the pumps. It's up 3 and 4 pence. Where they were bleating previously about the fact that, you know, okay, we're buying months and months ahead, so therefore you're not going to see the price reduction. One slight rise and bang, they're straight in.
It took months to creep down to 99, didn't it? And all of a sudden it's back up to 103, 104.
I've seen it at 106 as well, some places now already.
Same with gas and electricity bills, though, isn't it? You know, exactly the same. As soon as they're very quick to pass on a price hike. Not quite so quick maybe to adjust it when it's coming the other way.
I'll just be interested to see if the price keeps going up, whether Osborne will be able to actually fulfil his obligation and keep the fuel duty away from it. I'd like to think that he could.
But do you think maybe budget day in itself, though, is not quite such a big deal as it used to be because so many of the big headlines are leaked now?
I think a couple of things. Yeah, sure, the headlines are leaked now, but almost the autumn statement is almost as important an event as the budget.
I think, as people said before, the devil's always in the detail, isn't it? I mean, the headline-grabbing statements that he makes on budget day or in the autumn statement, these are the big things that he's trying to do. But when we actually get the full breakdown, which normally for us in the industry comes within 24 hours because you've got people sitting there all night sort of pouring through everything, you sit there and go, I don't remember hearing him say that, but my God, that's going to have a big effect on this group, or that's going to have an effect on another group. But you have to digest everything and then take it as the whole to see exactly what the overall picture is going to be.
Absolutely.
I think there's one sure thing, though. If he's going to hit his objective of balancing the budget, then he's got an awful lot of money to find from somewhere, because he's had so many backdowns and U-turns.
Well, the one thing he has got, he's got a £20 billion float coming his way, because the interest that he's having to pay on the national debt has been charged at 1.23% for the last 9 to 10 months. So therefore he's getting the debt reduction much faster than he thought he would do. Now that's going to come out in the budget at some stage. If it doesn't, I'll be very, very surprised. If it doesn't, I want to know where he's put it.
So the good news is there will still be some good talking points from the budget.
I think he's going to pull a few rabbits that are going to come out of the hat, definitely.
Meantime, as part of the Queen's 90th birthday celebration, people around the region have been encouraged to tidy up their area. We went along to Victoria Square to see what was planned around that area.
Now, we all know that chewing gum is a struggle to get off the pavements and streets of our local cities. So as a part of Clean for the Queen, we are going to clean up in Victoria Square. So here with me is Neil Maddox. He runs the company that makes these machines. So can you tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, the machine is manufactured in Bromsgrove, UK manufactured. The machine, the way it works is it heats up the chewing gum to over 90 degrees so it's pliable like what's in your mouth. That allows a sugar beet-based detergent to break the enzymes down within the chewing gum and dissolve it away. So there's no need for collecting the chewing gum up after, which is very, very environmentally friendly, pH neutral. The machines run for 8 hours, consistent use. They're battery operated, and they use a propane and butane mix of gas that heats the chewing gum up, or the chewing gum solution that allows the chewing gum to be heated.
Oh. So how long exactly will it take to collect the minimum amount of chewing gum?
It takes between 5 and 10 seconds to dissolve a piece of chewing gum away, depending on the temperature outside. Obviously in the summer, the chewing gum's already halfway there, it's already warm, so it doesn't take as long. In the winter it does take a little bit longer. But yeah, about 5 or 10 seconds to remove one piece of gum.
How long will this project take?
I mean, we're working on Victoria Square. We have volunteers here, and we're here till probably about 4 or 5 hours today. To do the whole square, I reckon probably 2 days, and that will remove all the chewing gum from Victoria Square.
What do you think could be done to prevent this from happening in the future?
The chewing gum manufacturers are trying to design the chewing gum so it doesn't stick so easily. It takes about 6 months, I believe, for the chewing gum to become sticky onto the concrete or floor. They have been saying that this will be done, but I've heard this over about the last 5 years, and nothing's still been done about it. So.
Thank you, Neil, for telling us about these machines. I might as well have a go myself. This is AJ Lindo, TNT News for the Midlands in Birmingham.
Never mind Clean for the Queen. Anything that cleans chewing gum off pavements. It's one of my pet hates. I don't know about you. I mean,
It's just a filthy, lazy habit, isn't it? For goodness sake, there's so many bins around, or just put it in your pocket, but it really, really annoys me when you see so many improvement works going on in our towns, and then literally overnight, all you see is this splodges of chewing gum.
The article there says, I mean, it's costing people money to get rid of it. And when you walk down the sort of the thoroughfares in some of the town centres, all you see is the massive black spots everywhere. It looks like, the place has been blighted with some sort of disease, doesn't it? Yeah. It's just not attractive, is it?
Because if you don't, it's one of those, if you don't get them up off the pavement straight away, you can double, treble, quadruple the amount of time it takes.
It just keeps more on top of more, isn't it, all the time?
So I guess we say, I mean, whether it takes the Queen's birthday celebrations to get people motivated, it's a good thing, isn't it?
As long as they keep it going.
That's right. But it's about educating people not to do it in the first place, isn't
true.
it? So
that's a very hard thing to do, isn't it, given people's attitudes now. I mean, not only chewing gum, you see litter just scattered around the streets. I mean, one of the worst things is when you go first thing of a Saturday morning through the town after a Friday night before, and it's just awful to see. Absolutely. And the cost of cleaning that up, surely that money could be better spent elsewhere in our communities other than just cleaning up people's lazy behaviour.
I think local councils could do a lot to help themselves by having a greater availability of bins as well. In honesty, I mean, there's been times when I've been around and, if you do have something in your hand, you want to get rid of it, you try finding a bin. There isn't that many around.
There was that time, wasn't there, sort of post 9/11, where everybody suddenly immediately thought a bin was a possible bomb threat, and they were taken away. And so, there's a balance. Isn't
Yeah.
there?
Well, one of the worst places was train stations. You try finding a bin in a train station.
It's not easy.
You just you end up chasing down one of these cleaners.
You do. Let's talk football briefly before the break.
Do we have to?
We'll come to Aston Villa in a minute, Frank. But of course, Walsall have got their own problems. After only 16 games in charge, Walsall manager Sean O'Driscoll was sacked. 58-year-old was only appointed in December, but he'd won just 6 matches, and his departure came on the back of a 6-game winless run. So what do local people make of it all?
So yesterday, Walsall FC manager Sean O'Driscoll was sacked from Walsall. What's your views on this?
Bit disappointed because I don't think he had enough time in charge. I know it was a difficult time for Walsall when Dino left and went to Brentford, but Sean come in, he done a decent job, but you can't lose that many home games in a row, and you can't lose by that amount of goals, especially when we're doing so well. Really pushing for the, not only promotion but winning the league really. Burton are now, I believe, about 6 points clear or something like that. So I'm a bit disappointed. I believe he deserved a bit more time.
I think it's the right decision. He wasn't bringing the young lads along. He was doing what he wanted to do, and he lost the dressing room. They weren't playing for him. His ideas weren't suitable for the team, and they've lost ground on the promotion race.
Well, I think they should have left it till the end of the season. I really do, because it's pointless trying to get rid of a manager now at this stage of the season. You might as well hang on till the end. Might as well.
Good job.
Why?
Because we've played rubbish the last 5 games, and the side he played Saturday was ridiculous. Henry should have been on there, Kilcarvick should have been on there. You're not going to score goals without them.
Because it really is a big deal for Walsall this season. If they do get promoted, possibility of Wolves, Birmingham, your boys from Aston Villa heading in the opposite direction, a massive chance in the Championship. Aston Villa this week announced £27.3 million loss as well. What's happened to you?
Oh, I wish I knew. There's just been such a plethora of problems at Aston Villa. It all started when Martin O'Neill wasn't given the budget to carry the side forwards and build on what he already got. And when you look at a club that's sold its entire spine of players for the last 3 or 4 seasons, it shouldn't come as any surprise when we look at the squad that we've got at the moment. And I hate to say this, but there's just 0 talent there. No matter how good or bad the manager is, there just is nobody there that can pull the squad through to do the job.
Let's hope, though, that we have a good bumper season in the Championship for everybody next year. We're going to take a little break now to catch up with the Big Centre News headlines. We're back with more of our own headlines in a few minutes. Welcome back to The Week, where I'm still joined by Frank Cochran and Kevin Rogers. We were talking sports before the break and Aston Villa's woes, among other things. Keeping the sporting theme going, because it's Sport Relief next week. And Wolverhampton Speedway, in conjunction with the local hotel in Dudley, are hosting a fundraising evening at the Monmouth Green Stadium. Here's some more about it.
Dirt tracks, bike skids and a whole lot of revving. Yes, that's right, I'm at the home of the West Midlands Premier Speedway side, the Wolverhampton Wolves. And come the end of the month, tyres will be swapped for trainers in the name of Sport Relief.
This event will be the only Sport Relief mile in Wolverhampton, in the local areas.
We are doing a fancy dress. There's 2 sit-ins. There's a 12 o'clock run or walk, or you can crawl, whatever you want to do to get around. And we've got the 1:30 showing as well. And in between that, we've got some mascots joining us. We've also got a fancy dress competition.
Having teamed up with local businesses like Dudley's Village Hotel, it seems as though there's a real push for togetherness.
Sports Relief for many has been helpful for everyone. Just everyone getting together, making a bond.
Yeah, I just think it shows a good camaraderie really of communities getting together and just supporting not only younger people as well, but going through to all ages. And I think Sport Relief does that in a good way, really. Due to the fact that sport's a big part of a lot of people's lives, whether it's football, rugby, whatever the course. It's been a big part of my life, so I think that it is good in that aspect that people can come together through a general aspect, really.
And with fancy dress on the cards, what are the pair going to dig out of the closet?
I'll be doing a mile in a green morph suit with the same Village Gym logo, and Alvin here will be doing it on a Segway board.
Yeah.
So we're doing it. So it's a nice little fun way of doing it. So there's going to be like mascots. There's going to be people doing a range of different things.
At the Speedway's last event for Sport Relief, they made history by raising more than £6,000. This year, they hope to break that record. So, on your marks, get set, go. This is Roshni Patel for The Midland in Wolverhampton.
Used to love going to Wolverhampton Speedway. You can't, but there's the smell. There's nothing like the smell of a Speedway meet. Went for many years in there. But Sport Relief seems to have captured the imagination, doesn't it? Really, this year.
It really does. Yeah. I mean, some of the adverts are just absolutely fantastic.
They're good to watch, aren't they?
Really doing a good job promoting it.
Some friends of mine are trying to do 24 different sports in 24 hours on Friday, which is actually take part in proper competitions, 24 different disciplines. So I think they've reached that point now where it sounded like a good idea at the time. I'm not quite sure.
Well, that was good last week when they had the 56 or 57 hour football.
Alan Shearer and
to play for 12 hours, and he said it seemed like a good idea at the time, but after the 12th hour, I couldn't walk.
I thought it was great when you got Joe Brand walking around parts of Great Britain, that and if these celebrities are going to come out and support it, I just think it's great because it's putting money into the sport and it's helping people to get back out. And if you can make people fitter and healthier and get this money to the ground roots, perhaps we actually could get some money to find some new place for Aston Villa.
I'm not quite sure it's going to raise that much. I'm not quite sure.
Well, there's always hope, isn't there?
But it is part of an agenda, a wider agenda, isn't it, where everybody is being encouraged. And we had these statistics back on Monday that we are more obese now than we've ever been as a nation, as a region. So this is a double success, isn't it, really?
We do seem to have lost the momentum of the Olympic Games, don't we? I mean, there was such a huge groundswell of people wanting to engage with sport after that, only to find that there wasn't actually enough venues or coaches to actually meet the need of that. So I think we lost the momentum there.
Well, on last week's show we were talking about the fact that Walsall Tennis Club are looking for another home because they rent it and now the owners want to build houses on it. School sports pitches have been built on, haven't they? And it's.
I think we've lost a lot of that from the time when I was a child. I mean, there was parks everywhere. I mean, it wasn't unusual to be able to just jump over the fence and go and play on the school playing fields and things like that. The kids today, they don't do that. And I mean, this is where you've got to start and encourage them to become involved in sport at a very young age, because it becomes habit forming. Instead of sitting on Xboxes and sitting and watching televisions and playing on their iPhones and things like that. Yeah, that's got a place in their life because it's the modern communication for them with their friends. But there's still nothing wrong with going out into a park and running around and having a game with a football. I mean, that's how they get fit and healthy.
And I mean, we had the other story about there's a campaign to try and stop tackles in rugby for young people as well, isn't there? Because there's worries about head injury. But and yes, safety is paramount and whatever we do. But
where does that stop?
That's
that
where do you draw the line?
Utterly ridiculous.
Well, it's getting rid of competition in life. And I mean, at the end of the day, we are called the human race, and it is a race, isn't it? So. When I worked in the newspaper industry, we used to cover a children's football league,
and we were asked by the committee to stop publishing the results of the children's football matches because they felt it was having a negative effect on the teams that lost, and that it's not the winning, it's the taking part attitude. But
winning's important.
Well, and losing teaches you lessons, doesn't it? As well.
It's character building, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, if you can learn to take a defeat on the chin, and then it's the old. I do a lot of martial arts now, and one of the well-worn phrases is: "You get knocked down 7, you get up 8." You just don't lie there and take it. You get up and you get back and you fight again, and you just never stop. And that competitive edge, if you drag it into business. Just because something hasn't worked the first time doesn't mean you don't keep trying and you modify it and you make it work.
You have to have that resilience, don't you?
You have to. You've got to build that sort of a gut reaction that, you just don't give up.
Do you think, I mean, I don't know about you, I feel sometimes that it's almost seen as a negative aspect to your personality if you are a competitive person these days.
That's only ever given by losers. I hate to say it, but the Royal Marines have got a great saying, and that is that, pain is just fear leaving your body. And, if you don't go through a bit of pain, you don't deserve to get any of the accolades.
No, and like you say, it's part of life's lessons.
It is. There's nothing wrong with losing. It's a really good learning process.
Talking of losing, how's this for a link? The government lost its first debate in the House of Commons this week when it tried to expand the Sunday trading rules to allow stores to stay open longer. I mean, various rebels from the Tory side swapped sides and they lost by 30-odd votes, didn't they? Where do you stand on the Sunday trading debate? Have we got it about right now, or should shops be allowed to open if they want to?
I think we've got it about right. I'm not a religious person, but I think Sunday still should be a special family day, and just that kind of break from the normal week, whatever a normal week is these days, because people are working all kinds of different patterns compared to what we did 30, 40 years ago. But I still think it's nice to have just a little bit of free space on a Sunday.
I think if you asked me at 4:05 on a Sunday when I've just broken something in the garage, whether the B&Q should be open or not, I think the answer would probably be I wish it was. But from a realistic point of view, yeah, I agree with you. Sunday, there is a time when you've got to say, look, let's just say enough's enough. I mean, if you can realise that nobody's that busy that they can't plan around using the trading hours that we've got at the moment. And I mean, if you go to parts of Scotland now, if you haven't got your car full of fuel by sort of 6 o'clock on Saturday, you ain't getting any on Sunday because you're going to have to drive an awful long way to get it. That's quite nice.
The problem is, in the electronic age, people are now so used to deciding what they want. Click there, put your credit card details in there, and it's delivered to your doorstep 3/4 of an hour later, and they expect that everything's got to be instant, isn't it? And
it's immediate gratification for what you want, isn't it? And, I do feel sorry for some of these shopkeepers who... sorry, not the shopkeepers, but the people that actually work for the shopkeepers. If they're feeling as though they're being obliged to work later hours on a Sunday, when are they going to spend time with their own families? And that's not fair.
But you also have to take into account the smaller shopkeepers as well that operate outside of the standard.
But they're still allowed to, aren't they?
Yes, yeah.
And that's where they make their profit, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And they're offering a really good service, and to expand to allow the larger shops.
But the trouble is, there's so few of them around now. The big shops have actually closed them all down, so that if you still need that service, it's harder and harder to find.
Interesting story in the Express and Star this week, which that just reminds me of, which I've got down here, because Tesco was going to be taking over the old Royal Hospital site in Wolverhampton. We've now got this story, which your colleague Ninda from the Black Country Chamber is quoted in. It now looks like it's going to be turned into housing and possibly some kind of facility for the City of Wolverhampton College, but that's got to be good news, because that site's been... It's iconic, but it's in a wreck.
It's been such an eyesore and such a superb building, and I am quite biased about this because Paycare was actually founded 141 years ago out of the Royal Hospital. And,
that very building, was it?
Yes, yeah, and our office was there until the mid-80s when we moved to George Street, so there was a real affinity to that building, and to see it put to some real good use, and the college would be a great tenant in there, and to develop the whole site, which is it's a huge site. With really
it's 12.5 acres. It's
sorely need housing, will be great news for the city.
I don't think you realise just how far back it goes, because I mean that actual facade and the outside of it, the architecture is beautiful.
It is an incredible building.
And if it was just properly cleaned up, and you could have the designer apartments like these loft houses that they have in Brindley Place in Birmingham. I mean, people would pay big money to live there, because it would be a lovely site to live on.
Because
it really
also
would.
It's a 5-minute stroll into the city centre, isn't it? So it's got to be good news for
and you're right next to the station.
Economy.
Right next to the station, right next to the metro station. It's perfect.
You've got everything there. So, yeah, it'd be nice to see it done, because how many years has it been like that now? It's got to be 20 years.
Oh, it must be. I mean, I remember it closing down when I was just before I left Wolverhampton. It must be 25 years.
Yeah,
ago.
I was going to say, it's been there for years and years, and it's just been a derelict eyesore with all these hoardings up. And the town needs that as almost as a focal point to look what we can do.
I spent many happy Sunday afternoons in there with football injuries.
So it provided a good service as well.
They absolutely did.
Excellent.
I'm not saying I got fond memories there, but
is that why you ended up getting involved with Paycare then, Patients Aid?
It was a great fit, ultimately.
Excellent. Now I know we're not the target market for this last package, but it was International Women's Day earlier this week, so it's remiss of us not to mention it. We went out into the community around the Black Country to find out what kind of female role models inspired local people.
My daughter, she's really good to me. She's young, she's 29, but she's very good to us, me and my husband. And my daughter, Gemma.
So today is International Women's Day. What female do you look up to? Who is your inspiration and why?
My mom, she's the strongest woman I know. She's kind, she's caring. She sacrificed so much for me, for giving me a better life. She works hard. She's just amazing. I love her so much.
Well, that's easy to answer. My wife. We've been married for nearly 40 years. She's loyal. She is inspirational to me. She's considerate, emphatic with people who have problems, dear friends. That's all I can say. She's my hero.
All right, after my mum, Amy Winehouse, because she's just such an inspiration to me. She was way ahead of her time.
That's an interesting jump, isn't it? Inspiration from your mum to Amy Winehouse. I mean, International Women's Day has really taken off in the last couple of years, hasn't it?
I have to hold my hand up and say I hadn't really heard of it until this week. And
you're not the target market, though.
No, I feel like I should know about it. I mean, it's really obviously a really big day in Europe and really celebrated. And
I think it's worldwide. I mean, I've just come back from a holiday in Cape Verde, and the hotel we were at. They put a huge, I'm talking about sort of an 8-foot long by 4-foot deep cake, and every lady that came into the dining room, they were given a slice of this cake, and it was International Women's Day, and that, you know, it was really celebrated, and the ladies were given a rose and a glass of champagne. They really went to town on it.
You have to give me the name of the hotel later. Mrs. Jones would enjoy that. So.
I think you're going there in January.
Well, yeah, I mean, the great thing about International Women's Day is it tackles serious issues. I mean, they've used it as a campaign to look at salary equality, as well as, you know, your more human interest stories. And do you think there's still much wage equality, or inequality rather, around here as there used to be?
I have to be honest, and in my experience, I've not really come across it. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, because I think it obviously does, but it's not something I've really experienced in my career.
If you get two people, a man and a woman, doing the same job, they should be on the same wage, because there's no argument to say that the man's going to be better at it than the woman. So in the fire service, in the police service, they should be on equal pay. But if you've got two jobs which are obviously different, and the skill sets are different, then they're going to have different pay scales, and let's accept it. But I mean, you know, I can understand why women for many years have felt a bit aggrieved at this, because it isn't fair. So, you know, I think we're getting closer.
Absolutely, without a doubt, I think we are. We're also getting closer to finding out just how much the economy was damaged by a vandal attack that took place. I don't know if you remember this. It was back in November on the Coventry to Birmingham rail line. Arsonists set fire to some wires, and it's been revealed this week that as a result of that, 162 trains were cancelled and over 10,000 minutes of delays were caused. This is just an example, isn't it, of just how thoughtless, mindless acts of vandalism can cause massive knock-on
It doesn't say if the possibility of injury to people in the area as well. You know, it's just crazy. I mean, why do people do things like that, knowing full well that it's just going to inconvenience loads of other people? I mean, have they not got something better to do with their lives?
And the problem is, you know, it may be a small, in quotes, arson incident. I would argue no arson incident is small, but in relation to the problems that it causes, you then get to the realms of why doesn't the punishment maybe fit the scale of the impact?
They've got to catch them first, that's the trouble.
Well, it is, absolutely.
As you say, a small arson event. Well, how can you control an arson event?
No.
You just have not got any control over what the ultimate outcome of your actions will be.
But you're seeing these things all the time on our rail network now, and people just maybe sort of wandering along the side of the tracks and holding trains up. And I just think, in general, are people held responsible for the consequences of their actions?
Is it a case, though, Carl, that we're seeing these articles now because they've been reported more, or is it a case that they always happened and we just never got to talk about them? I think sometimes the press can be responsible for causing some of this by making it more widely available and known that people are doing these things. You know, sometimes it might not be a good idea just to say nothing and just let it go.
Well, and I mean, you know, not just the press, because in the era we're in now, it happens one minute, it's tweeted the next, isn't it? You know,
and somebody goes and copies it.
And the consequences of things like this are tweeted and distributed really, really quickly. It's very difficult to get your head around the mentality of somebody that would do something like that. And you also have the incidents on motorway bridges of individuals
just dropping things. Yeah.
It just beggars belief.
I mean, that brings us actually nicely to the last bit, really, to talk about today. This issue that's happened on the M6, early February. A report came out on Wednesday talking about the actions of the Highways Agency in handling this. And the big talking point, I mean, there's a piece that's in the Birmingham Mail on Thursday. Should we now make the M6 toll free when the main M6 is held up? And what happens really in February is that someone has calculated that £40 million was wiped off the economy by the people that were snarled on this motorway. And yet it would have cost £300,000 in fees to open up the M6 toll.
Wasn't there supposed to be an agreement in place that was what was going to happen anyway? But it just seems that nobody's willing to take the decision to tell the people at the toll booths, open your booths and let the traffic flow.
I think this is the issue. I mean, you've got Councillor Paul Tilsley from Sheldon saying, look, in his opinion, Highways England not fit for purpose by what they've done. The Highways team say, well, look, we're sorry. We learn from every accident. We take on board the comments, you know, and there is an ongoing investigation. But that
ultimately, there's got to be somebody that's going to take that decision. And if that person hasn't made the decision, they ought to be asked why.
I think it's just another example of government organisations not talking to each other, and it shouldn't be rocket science.
There's a lack of accountability.
Is this something the Combined Authority Mayor will have responsibility for?
You would think it would be pretty near the top of the agenda, wouldn't you?
Well, consider it's right in the middle of the patch. And I mean, you think of the amount of traffic that gets held up, you look at the pollution, people's lives are damaged by it. I mean, you imagine if you were going on your way to an airport and you were stuck in that traffic, you'd miss your flight, you'd have the consequences, the knock-on effect of that. You're on your way to business meetings, that might not happen. It's costing the economy millions of pounds, and nobody seems willing to say, look, it was my fault, I didn't make the decision when I should.
Maybe going back to the last point, the fact that, you know, someone makes a fairly sort of left field or radical decision and they get vilified for it in the media or publicly, and they don't want to put their head above the parapet to be shot down. Maybe people are frightened of doing that. I don't know.
We have a great resource in the toll road, and not to use it to its full capacity it's just criminal.
Because it's up for sale at the moment, isn't it? So
yeah,
maybe there's an opportunity to do something there.
I think it's certainly, we're talking about radical ideas, I think it's certainly something the local authorities really should be focusing on to see.
We've got to get behind it and open it when it's needed, because otherwise it's just going to create more and more problems going forward. And the weight of public opinion is telling them this is what we want.
Absolutely. Gents, thank you for joining us.
Welcome.
When do you start your presidency? Is it April the 1st?
1st of April. I'm not sure there's any significance in that
ominous date. Good luck with that. And Frank, thank you. We'll see you both soon.
Pleasure.
That's all we've got time for another week. Don't forget, if there's something you'd like us to be talking about, send us an email and tell us about it. theweek@bigcentre.tv. See you soon.